India is a country that does not leave indifferent. She delights in scares, inspires and shocks, fascinates and experiences strength. This video is not a tourist guide, but an honest story about what travelers really face. There are no romanticized clichés about spiritual enlightenment, only facts that should be known before the trip. First point: anti-sanitaria and illnesses. If you are used to cleanliness and order, India can become a real shock. Here, dirt and unsanitary conditions are part of everyday life, and even in tourist places you rarely find a European level of hygiene. Dirty streets in public places in cities, tons of garbage lie right on the sidewalks, and sewer drains often flow along roadsides. In poor areas, people live among waste, and the smell of rotting organics and urine can be unbearable. Even in popular cities such as Delhi or Mumbai, you will see mountains of plastic, food waste, and even excrement on the streets. The danger of infections due to poor sanitation in India: it is easy to catch intestinal infection, hepatitis A, typhoid or cholera. Even if you wash your hands, the risk of getting infected through water or food is very high. Many tourists are faced with the revenge of monsoon heavy diarrhea, which can ruin the entire vacation. Dirty public toilets. In most places, toilets do not have paper, water or soap, and sometimes they are just a hole in the floor. In cheap hotels and stations, bathrooms are often covered with a layer of dirt, and the smell is such that it is impossible to breathe. Rats, insects and parasites. Due to the abundance of garbage in India, there are many rats, flies, cockroaches and mosquitoes, carriers of the fever of dengue and malaria. In some regions there is a risk of catching parasites through the skin, for example, when walking barefoot. Hospital and medicine. If you still get sick, local state hospitals are often crowded and do not comply with the standards. Private clinics are better, but treatment can be expensive. Conclusion: if you are not ready to constant the fight against dirt, smells and risk of disease, India may be a difficult test. Even experienced travelers often get sick here, so you should get vaccinations in advance and take with you a first aid kit with antibiotics, sorbents, and antiseptics. Second point: dangerous food and water. Even if you adore Indian cuisine, reality may be tougher than expected. Local food is not only vivid spices and incredible tastes, but also a high risk of poisoning, infections and long days chained to the toilet. Water is the main enemy of the tourist in India. Tap water is unsuitable for drinking. It can be bacteria, viruses, heavy metals and even parasites. Even local residents often drink boiled or bottled water. Ice and drinks often made from tap water, so cocktails and freshly squeezed juices can be dangerous. Fruits and vegetables, they are washed in the same water, so it is safer to clean everything yourself. Toothpaste: some tourists even brush their teeth with bottled water to avoid accidental infection. Second subparagraph: street food. Russian roulette for the stomach. Street trays with food look appetizing, but hygiene here is a rarity. Oil can be over-legged dozens of times, meat lying in the sun for hours, and the hands of the cook never wash with soap. Pani puri and chaat are popular snacks, but sauces are often made on local water. Dairy products, lassi or sweet yogurts can be diluted with non-fucked milk. Meat and fish in cheap places can be served by stale, which leads to severe poisoning. Third subparagraph: restaurants, not always safe or even indecent. The kitchen may not comply with the standards. The waiters sometimes bring food with dirty hands, and the cooks do not always observe the temperature regime. Swedish tables, food can stand for hours without heating, propagating the bacteria. Salads and greens, often washed in dirty water, so it is better to avoid. Vegetarian dishes in cheap places can add melted oil, of dubious quality. Fourth subparagraph: what can you get sick? Travelers' diarrhea is the most frequent consequence. It can be out of the rut for several days. Hepatitis A and E is transmitted through water and unwashed products. Typhus abdominal is a dangerous infection that requires antibiotic treatment. Worms and parasites can enter the body with poorly fried meat or dirty vegetables. Fifth subparagraph: how to minimize risks. Drink only bottled water, check that the lid is sealed. Avoid ice, freshly squeezed juices and street milk cocktails. Eat only well-cooked/fried food. Clean the fruits yourself, avoid chopped. Always carry a sanitizer and antiseptic napkins with you. Conclusion: Indian cuisine is beautiful, but the risk of poisoning here is one of the highest in the world. If you have a sensitive stomach or you are not ready for health experiments, it is better to be extremely careful or even abandon local food in favor of trusted restaurants with hotels. Third point, transport chaos. Test for nerves and life. Indian roads are a real test even for experienced travelers. The fact that in other countries is considered a violation of the rules, here is ordinary everyday practice. Are you ready to risk your safety? First subparagraph, roads, the kingdom of anarchy in India. There are actually no concepts of traffic rules in the usual sense. Here one main law is in force. Who is the first? That is right, strips of movement exist only theoretically. Cars, rickshaws, trucks and cows move in random order. Traffic lights and signs are often ignored by all participants in the movement. Safety belts, a rarity even for drivers. Road marking, if there is, then erased for a long time. Second subparagraph, types of transport and their dangers. Each type of transport in India carries its own unique risks. Cars and taxi, drivers constantly signal and cut each other. Overtaking is performed in the most unexpected places. The technical condition of machines often leaves much to be desired. Motorcycles and tuk-tuki, on two-wheeled remedies often drive whole families, 4 to 5 people. Helmets are used. Extremely rare. Tuk-tuki, autrics, do not have doors and seatbelts. Trains and buses, crowded to a critical state. Doors often remain open during movement. Repair of ways and equipment is carried out irregularly. Third subparagraph, pedestrian risks. The transition of the street in the Indian city is a real adventure. Even at pedestrian crossings, drivers are rarely inferior to the road. Especially dangerous. Night transitions, many cars drive with turned off headlights. Roads between cities, wild animals can run out onto the track. Blind zones. Due to chaotic movement, it is difficult to predict the trajectory of machines. Fourth subparagraph, statistics are not in our favor. According to WHO, India ranks first in the world in terms of the number of deaths in an accident. More than 150,000 people die annually on the roads of the country. For tourists, the main risks, unusual driving style. Locals are used to chaos, but there are no foreigners. Lack of insurance, many vehicles are not safe. Corruption, in the event of an accident, they may try to shift the guilt to a tourist. Fifth subparagraph, how to minimize risks. If you still need to move around India, follow these rules. Choose the safest options. Metro is in large cities, official taxi with air conditioning. AC class trains, with air conditioning. Avoid night trips between cities. Rent of vehicles. Crowded buses. General tips, always fasten. Do not sit in crowded vehicles. Be especially careful when crossing roads. Conclusion, the Indian transport system is one of the most serious challenges for a tourist. If you are not ready for constant stress, risk for life and absolute chaos on the roads, it may be worth considering another country to travel. Those who still decide to travel should be extremely careful and choose the safest movement options. Fourth point, fraud and obsession. Battle for the wallet and nerves. India is a country of amazing contrasts, where sincere hospitality is adjacent to sophisticated schemes for deceiving tourists. Here, every second oncoming can be not just a curious local resident, but a professional fraudster who work out his schemes for years. First subparagraph, classic schemes of deception. The hotel is closed/moved. Taxi drivers and well-wishers at the stations assure that the hotel you have chosen is closed for repairs or ceased to exist. Instead, they are taken to the partner institution, where they receive a percentage from your overpayment. Fake travel agencies. Fake travel agencies sell tickets to Taj Mahal or other excursions at high prices, and sometimes completely disappear with your money. Free gifts and ceremonies. Street merchants can give you a gift, bracelet, flower, and then aggressively demand money. In temples, special ceremonies are sometimes held with the subsequent extortion of donations. Second subparagraph, transport scams. Minor meters in a taxi that spin at an incredible speed. Replacement of money when paying. You may not be returned to the bills that you gave. Sudden surcharges for baggage, nighttime, or special zones. Fake tickets for trains and buses that sell at the stations. Third subparagraph, temple divorce. Special days. You may be convinced that today the temple is closed to ordinary visitors, but you will be held for an additional fee. Mandatory donations require money for the entrance, although officially it is free. Blessings. Priests conduct rituals, and then ask for large amounts. Fourth subparagraph, street well-wishers. Especially active in tourist places. Students, practicing English, start a conversation, and then lead to a relative's store. Former employees of your hotel offers special excursions. Police check the documents and find violations in them, which can be corrected by a fine on the spot. Fifth subparagraph, how to protect yourself. Golden rules. Never believe the bad news about your armor. Always check the taxi meters before the trip. Refuse any free offers. Financial security, change money only in official exchangers, check each bill upon receipt, use cards only in proven places. Psychological defense, train policy of harsh ignoring obsessive merchants, do not be afraid to seem rude, politeness is perceived as weakness, remember the phrase no money, no help, go away. No money, do not need help, leave. Sixth subparagraph, special risk groups, lonely travelers are the main targets for scammers, elderly tourists are considered more gullible, women often become victims of caring assistance first arrived, do not recognize classic schemes. Conclusion, India demands constant vigilance from a tourist. Here fraud is not an exception, and part of everyday culture in tourist places. Your main allies are healthy skepticism, minimal cash in your pocket, and an iron rule: if the offer looks too good, this is definitely a deception. Fifth point, climate and ecology, survival test. The Indian climate can turn a trip into a real torture for an unprepared tourist. Here, nature checks a person for strength in all available ways. First subparagraph, murderous heat. From March to June in most regions of the country there is unbearable heat. The temperature regularly exceeds 40 degrees in the shade in cities such as Delhi or Jaipur. The thermometer can reach 40-8 degrees. Humidity in the coastal areas makes the heat even more dangerous. Sunny blows occur even among experienced travelers. Second subparagraph, monsoon season. From June to September, the country is covered by tropical showers, in some regions, up to 12,000 millimeters of precipitation per year. False floods paralyze the transport system. High humidity creates the effect of paired. The risk of diseases transferred by mosquitoes increases. Third subparagraph, air that cannot be breathed. The environmental situation in large cities is catastrophic. In Delhi, the level of air pollution exceeds the norm by 20-5 times. Was especially dangerous from October to February. PM 2.5 concentration often reaches 900 micrograms per cubic meter, at normal 25. The smell of burning and dust does not disappear even at night. Fourth subparagraph, health consequences. Adaptation to the Indian climate can take weeks. Constant thirst and dehydration, breathing problems due to contaminated air, skin irritation from dust and sweat, exacerbation of chronic diseases, sleep disturbances due to high temperature at night. Fifth subparagraph, how to survive in the Indian climate. A few tips for a more comfortable stay. Temporary schedule, plan excursions in the morning, from 6 to 10 hours, from 11 to 4, compulsory vacation in the room. Evening activity is possible after 5. Equipment, the headdress with wide fields is required. Sunglasses with the UV filter. A bottle of water is always with you. Wet napkins and thermal water. Medical training, Regidrin to restore water balance. Sunburns, inhaler for breathing problems. Antihistamines. Sixth subparagraph, the most dangerous periods. It is better to avoid visiting. April-June, the peak of heat. July-August, the strongest rains. October-January, a period of strong smog. Conclusion, the Indian climate is one of the most aggressive in the world. Without proper preparation, he can seriously undermine his health and spoil the whole impression of the trip. If you are not ready to put up with extreme temperatures, suffocating smog, and tropical humidity, it may be worth choosing another direction for travel. Sixth point, security problems, constant stress for a tourist. India takes 95th of 130-5 countries in a security rating for travelers. Let's figure out what specific threats can expect you. First subparagraph, street crime. Pocket thefts are especially common, in crowded trains and buses, on busy streets near the sites, and night trains. Thieves work while passengers are sleeping. Robberies most often occur in the dark, in a low-coated place, when exchanging money on the street, in cheap hotels without protection. ATM fraud, skimming devices are found even in tourist areas. Second subparagraph, gender risks for women, dangerous hazards increase at times. Sexual harassment, from close views to physical contacts, occurs in public transport 8 times more often than in Europe. On the beaches and dark alleys, hotels can refuse single women in settlement. Joint trips with unfamiliar men are extremely risky. Third subparagraph, dangerous regions and places. Avoid slums of large cities, border zones with Pakistan, distant rural areas, beaches in the dark. Particularly dangerous cities, Delhi, first place in crimes against tourists. Mumbai, area Kamathipura, Patna, high level of street crime. Fourth subparagraph, police and help. Law enforcement problems, can demand a bribe for help, often do not speak English, do not always react promptly. Emergency numbers, single number of rescuers, 112. Tourism police, 980-3 820-360-6. Fifth subparagraph, how to protect yourself. Basic rules, do not demonstrate valuable things. Store money in several places. Avoid night movements. For women, dress conservatively, wear a wedding ring, even if not married, avoid empty wagons in the subway. Documents, store copies of the passport separately from the original, have digital copies of all documents, record the contacts of the embassy. Sixth subparagraph, incident statistics. According to travel agencies, every third visitor of India is faced with theft. Every fifth female tourist reports harassment. 90% of crimes against tourists remain unsolved. Conclusion: India demands constant vigilance from a traveler. Unlike many other countries, it is impossible to relax here even in tourist areas. If you are not ready for the need to constantly control the situation and take precautions, it may be worth considering safer areas for relaxation. Seventh point, cultural shock. When reality surpasses expectation, India is able to cause the most powerful cultural shock of all possible. Here, Western ideas about comfort, personal space, and social norms turn upside down. First subparagraph, noise hell. Permanent sound background. Machine beeped sound 3 times more likely than in any metropolis of Europe. Street merchants use loudspeakers at maximum power. Religious ceremonies are accompanied by deafening music from 5 in the morning. Consequences for tourists: the impossibility of a good rest, constant irritation and fatigue, snow problems even in expensive hotels. Second subparagraph, lack of personal space. Physical contact. In lines you will be pushed without an apology. In transport, people literally breathe in the back of your head. Locals can touch foreigners out of curiosity. Visual contact, close views without constraint. Photography without permission. Aggressive curiosity for your things. Third subparagraph, social norms that shock. Hygienic habits. Spit on the streets, a common occurrence. Blowing in public places is considered normal. Washing hands after the toilet, a rarity. Attitude to animals. Cows roam vivaging streets. Dogs and monkeys rummage in garbage. Cruel methods of elephant training. Fourth subparagraph, gender differences for women. Physical contacts with men are taboo. Open clothing causes aggression. Visiting many temples is limited. For men, handsome with women are not accepted. The manifestation of emotions in public is condemned. Friendly hugs can be incorrectly interpreted. Fifth subparagraph, how to adapt. Psychological training. Study in advance cultural features. Tune into tolerance for inconvenience. Develop a psychological asylum strategy. Practical tips, always wear barushi. Choose hotels in quiet alleys. Determine the technique of internal distance. Cultural compromises, take local customs without conviction. Avoid open criticism. Learn to politely refuse. Sixth subparagraph, the most shocking situations by polls by tourists. 8 out of 10 travelers are not ready for noise level. 7 out of 10 women feel discomfort from close attention. 9 out of 10 first encountered street unsanitary conditions or nauseous. Conclusion: India is a country where cultural shock is inevitable. Even the most prepared travelers pass through the phases of denial, anger, and acceptance. If you are not ready for a radical other way of life, a constant violation of personal boundaries and the need to constantly adapt, perhaps this country is not for you. Eighth point, bureaucracy and corruption. Test for the nervous system. A journey through India often turns into an endless struggle with paperwork and extortion. A system created to complicate life can drive even the most patient tourist crazy. First subparagraph, visa difficulties. Incorrectivity of the creation. A standard tourist visa is made from 5 to 20 working days in 30% of cases. Additional documents are required. The cost can change without warning. Special restrictions. For visiting some states, you need separate permits. Pakistani stamps in the passport raise additional questions. Visa extension on the spot, a separate test. Second subparagraph, police officer. Typical extortion schemes, checking documents with finding violations. Accusations of violation of non-existent rules. Payment requirements for the fine. Hotspots, road posts between cities. Areas near government buildings. Tourist attractions. Third subparagraph, transport bureaucracy. Railway tickets. For foreigners there are separate quotas. Online registration requires an Indian phone number. The actual place often does not correspond to the purchased. Renting transport, require a security deposit 3 times higher than the cost of the rental. The contract is drawn up so that the client is always to blame. Insurance is often fictitious. Fourth subparagraph, hotel registrations. Mandatory procedures, filling out forms in 3 copies. Copies of all pages of the passport. Photography of guests. Peculiarities, in cheap hotels can refuse foreigners. Spouses of different sex sometimes require a marriage certificate. Settlement after 20-2 hours, a separate story. Fifth subparagraph, how to minimize problems. Documentary preparation, have 5 color copies of a passport. Store digital copies of all documents in the cloud. Always wear printed. Hotel reservation. Behavioral strategies: when communicating with officials, keep ice calm, demand official receipts for all payments, fix all controversial situations on the video. Financial protection: have small bills for unofficial payments, store the main money in 3 different places, never show all cash at once. 6th subparagraph, trouble statistics. According to consular services, every 4th tourist is faced with extortion. 8 out of 10 foreigners experience problems when extending visas. 90-5% of small corruption cases are not fixed. Conclusion: the Indian bureaucratic system is a separate quest on your journey. She will require you to steel nerves, inexhaustible patience, and readiness for surprises. If the thought of endless lines, illogical requirements, and the need to solve issues with money causes you a panic, think carefully if the game is worth the candle. 9th paragraph, cruelty of animals. Heartbreaking realities in India, where a cow is considered a sacred animal. Attitude to other living beings often shocks tourists. Behind the facade of spirituality, a cruel reality is hidden, which cannot be forgotten. 1st subparagraph, street suffering of animals. Wandering dogs, more than 30-5 million homeless dogs, often sick, hungry, with open wounds. In some areas, poisoning is practiced. Holy cows, elderly animals are simply thrown out into the street, eat plastic garbage, which leads to painful death. No one provides veterinary assistance. Monkeys, aggressive flocks in cities due to lack of food. Animals with injuries from electric wires. Frequent cases of attacks on people. 2nd subparagraph, cruel entertainment. Elephants operation, sharp hook training, lifelong chains even for young individuals. Tourist skating, crippling animal spine. Snake show, poisonous snakes remove teeth without anesthesia. Many are dying of stress and dehydration after the loss of entertainment they simply throw. Camel run, using electric pond out. Animals make you run to complete exhaustion. Frequent fractures of the limbs. 3rd subparagraph, living products markets. Bird markets, hundreds of birds in tiny cells. Many are dying of stress even before sale. Cruel transportation methods. Fisheries, live fish are cut in front of customers. Amphibians and turtles are kept in terrible conditions. Complete absence of humane methods of killing. 4th subparagraph, what can a tourist do? How not to support cruelty? Never pay for photos with animals. Boycott all types of entertainment. Do not buy live souvenirs. Ways to help: maintain local shelters with money. Volunteer in animal protection organizations. Dissolve information on social networks. Where to report on cruelty: to the police. Article 428 of the Criminal Code of India, in the organization PETA India. To local animal protection societies. 5th subparagraph, psychological consequences for sensitive people. 7 out of 10 tourists experience severe stress. 5 out of 10 reports nightmares. 3 out of 10 are depressed after what they saw. Conclusion: India is one of the most difficult places for animal lovers. The widespread suffering of living creatures can cross out all the positive impressions of the trip. If you are emotionally attached to animals and are not ready to see cruelty and indifference daily, think seriously whether you should go to this country. 10th point, tourist infrastructure. Disappointment for demanding travelers. India offers a unique cultural experience, but its infrastructure often does not correspond to the expectations of foreign guests. Even for big money, it is difficult to get the level of comfort familiar in other countries. 1st subparagraph, problems with housing. Hotel realities. Hotel stars are often overstated. 1 or 2 categories. The room's worth $100 can be bedding with spots. The stink of sewage. Insects in the bathroom. Air conditioners often work with interruptions. Budget options. Hotels for $20 to $30 can shock. General showers with mold. Mattresses with bugs. Lack of hot water. In 7 out of 10 cases, the promised Wi-Fi does not work. 2nd subparagraph, transport inconvenience. Airports, flight delays. The norm: every second flight is late. Baggage can be lost or open. Long-term inspection procedures, up to 2 hours. Railways, wagons are often dirty and crowded. Tools on trains, a separate test. In 40% of cases, trains are late for 3 hours or more. 3rd subparagraph, communal problems. Power supply, DS of electricity 2 to 3 times a day in some areas. Interruptions last for 8 to 10 hours. Generators are only in expensive hotels. Water supply, water can be rusty or sand. Pressure is often insufficient for shower. Hot water in cheap hotels only in the morning. 4th subparagraph, sanitary standards. Public places, toilets in 80% of cases are dirty. The smell of urine on the streets is a permanent. Satellite garbage heaps near tourist facilities. Beaches, many are covered with plastic. Garbage. Water is often polluted by wastewater. Dangerous currents are rarely indicated. Fifth subparagraph, how to minimize discomfort. Housing choice, book only hotels with 500 reviews. Check the presence of a generator and water heater. Study fresh photos from tourists. Hygienic set, own shower slippers, antibacterial napkins, road towel and soap. Technical training, drill in case of disconnects. Flashlight in the phone. Offline cards. Sixth subparagraph, statistics of disappointments by polls by tourists. 6 out of 10 guests are disappointed with housing quality. 4 out of 5 encountered hygiene problems. 9 out of 10 complain about transport inconvenience. Conclusion: Indian tourism infrastructure is suitable only for those who are ready to put up with significant inconvenience for the sake of unique cultural experience. If you are used to a certain level of comfort and purity, get ready for a serious test of your habits and patience. Perhaps it is worth considering other Asian directions with a more developed infrastructure for the first acquaintance with the region. India is a country of contrasts where an amazing ancient culture is adjacent to the shocking realities of modern life. This direction is not suitable for every tourist, and before the trip it is worth honestly evaluating your willingness to face extreme sanitary conditions, dirty streets, unsanitary conditions, high risk of disease, dangerous food and water, frequent poisoning, unusual spices, risk of serious infections, chaotic and dangerous transport, accidents, overflowing trains, aggressive drivers. Fraud and obsession, fraud of tourists at every step, extortion, aggressive merchants, unbearable climate, deadly heat, suffocating, mouse in showers, safety problems, pocket theft, harassment, criminal areas. Deep cultural shock, lack of personal space, noise, unusual traditions, bureaucracy and corruption, bribery, visas problems, police arbitrariness. Cruel handling of animals, suffering dogs, cows, elephant exploitation, low level of tourist infrastructure, dirty hotels, interruptions in water and light. Do not forget about the useful services that we indicate in the fixed comments. Subscribe to the channel, like it. Good rest for everyone.